Welcome. It's the FIH Pro League Hockey Show, and I'm joined today by three fantastic guests. Two of them are returners. You'll have seen their faces many times before, and we have a new boy on the show as well, but he's actually just taking a minute to join us. So for the people who are here, we have got Marsha Cox. Hi, Marsha, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, and you, Sarah?
Yeah, really good. So Marsha, South African hockey legend, and fast becoming a bit of a legendary co-host on the show as well. So great to see you again. Then we've got Cedric D'Souza, India former goalkeeper, now a hockey guru. Cedric, you're actually taking a few minutes out from a course today, aren't you, I think, to join us?
Yeah, I'm in Barcelona as a mentor for the coach program with the European Hockey Federation conducts. And yeah, I'm glad to be here with Marsha and you. Definitely.
Brilliant, fantastic. And Mo, our debutant on the show, Mo Mea from South Africa. How are you, Mo?
I'm good, thanks. And thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. One of the reasons Mo is joining us today is almost a trial run, because you're going to be joining Marsha on the Junior World Cup shows as well, and we'll be talking a bit about that later. But it's great to see you, and yeah, I hope you enjoy your first appearance on this particular show. So the first thing we're going to talk about the weekend's matches that have just taken place between India and Argentina men. They're two games between two very well matched sides. First match 2-2 draw, which saw Argentina take the bonus point after, I've got to say, a pretty dire performance by India in the shootout. And then in the second match, we saw India answer Graham Reid's call to turn opportunities into goals as they won 4-3. I thought I'd come to Marsha first, and just your opinions of the match, the first match in particular, overall.
Yeah, I thought the two matches overall, I thought Argentina would walk away with more of the points. To be honest, I thought that they put in a more convincing performance, although India were really clinical with their chances. And we always know that when you play against India, you play until the final whistle goes, and that's what they showed in both games: their resilience and scoring in the dying minutes of both games. Yeah, I think Argentina did well with the shootouts, but I think it would have been probably more. It wouldn't have been a surprise if they had already finished the game within the 60 minutes of playtime. I don't know what the others felt.
Well, I know Cedric and I were actually talking before the call, and Cedric, you were quite impressed and also surprised by the Argentina performance, weren't you?
Yeah, definitely. Both teams have abundant technical skills. Let's be clear about it. And normally Argentina soaks up the pressure and plays on the counterattack, and they beat you on the break, and they got their 3D skills and the penalty corners, which they get their goals. But what was surprising was the fact that in both the matches, they held much higher possession than India. And this is something, maybe a new trend we're seeing in Argentina with the new crop of players that have come in. Are they being more creative? Are they taking another level to their games, which is not only counter-attacking, but also holding play, creating play, and then getting goals? From the look of things, it looks a really good blend that they have. If they can add this to their armory. And I think this is, for me, a team growing in stature.
Yeah, and I mean, they had one or two players missing as well, didn't they, from that lineup? I mean, Maiko Casella in particular was missing from the team. Mo, what were your thoughts on the games? You've had a look at the highlights and everything. What were your thoughts on the two performances?
I think two very, very equal strength teams, but I think Argentina let themselves down in the last minute. In both games, they conceded in the last minute. So 2-1 down, India, and it was very similar goals that they conceded: long balls into the D and deflections, either far post or first Indian player getting ahead of the Argentinian defender to deflected goal bound. So in that regard, I'd have thought Argentina would have learned their lesson from game one and just been more assertive in the last couple of minutes, but they lost the last one 4-3 with a similar goal, similar time in the game. And in terms of PCs, I think both teams weren't clinical. In the first game, India had 5 PCs and scored 1. Second game, I think they had 4 and scored 3. So from their point of view, much better. Argentina, on the other hand, it was 4 in both games, and it was, I think, 2 goals from 8. Something that, well, Argentinians are accustomed to scoring most of their PCs. So those are my observations, and I think 2 good games of hockey.
I
Yeah,
think
two very good
also
games.
to take on what Mo just said, the important thing is to understand that India in the past used to concede goals in the last couple of minutes. And it's strange to see that they've reversed the roles and scoring goals in the last couple of minutes in both games. And Argentina has to really work on this because they did the same thing against England and against Spain. So basically, they got to worry about the fact that they're conceding in the last minutes. And is their marking still rigid enough or strong enough? And they're looking at the clock running down. How do you maintain that balance? How do you maintain that equilibrium and focus till the last final minute?
Yeah, but and saying that, Cedric, sometimes that's also, you spoke about the change in their game to see them being more dominant with holding possession and playing more attacking style play. But that's also then the risk is that when you're in the process, and that's what we see with Pro League, is that it's the process of trying new things. So when you're trying new things and playing more attacking, you will expose your defense to these types of goals that are unusual for Argentina to concede in dying minutes of the game. So it'll be interesting to see how they progress through the rest of the tournament, knowing that they've now done it on more than one occasion, allowing their ball to sneak in the dying minutes, and how to find that balance of their new style of play with the ball and keeping their strengths of their old style of play without the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just sort of look at the Indian side for a minute, and again, just concentrate on that first game to start with. I mean, I think one of the interesting things that we've seen over the course of this Pro League, because there are two matches, things that go wrong in the first game, almost the first half, they have a chance to get right in the second. And I think, I mean, Graham Reid at the end of that first game, the frustration he must have felt, 32 circle penetrations, and they only scored, 2 goals. As a coach, I mean, it's not a long time to turn things around, is it? If we just ask you, Mo, on this one, 24 hours, how does a coach go about turning things around in that respect within 24 hours? Because that's quite a challenge, isn't it?
I would say you don't want to, what's the word I'm looking for? You don't want to add major changes. It's just minor tweaks here and there that will give you the desired outcome. And I think that's what they've done. They went about it as subtle changes, rectifying from game 1 where it was 5 PCs, I think 0-1 conversion, to game 2, 4 PCs and 3 conversions. So those small changes got them goals. Another thing is being ruthless in the D. It was just wayward chances in the first game. Circle entries with no outcomes towards the second game where it was purposeful outcomes within the D.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing is also
Sorry.
with 46 circle entries in both games, we had only 18 shots at goal. So this is something they got to increase that percentages, because it's important that when you make those entries in the circle, you got to make it count and make them into either a penalty corner or a shot at goal. But that's where they worked on, I think, in the second game to a certain extent, and they got their goals. But India has the strength in the PCs. They've got the strength in the PCs. They have some really good strikers who can get these poacher goals and the deflection goals. So use those strengths instead of holding on to them. Use them whenever it's possible, and push the defense. Draw the defense out, first, and then look for the long ball in. She can get that. And but I think the most important thing is India has to start again gaining more control in the midfield, like she did in the past, because the possession stats are not as what she normally does, and also to convert the circle entries into shots at goals.
One point I was going to pick up on, and this changed from game 1 to game 2, and I don't know who wants to. I don't know which of you has ever done number 1 running on penalty corners. Obviously, Cedric won't have done, but he'll have been watching it happen. Thomas Habib in the first game was excellent at running down the Indian PCs. In the second game, it didn't happen, and the commentator, Simon Mason, made the comment that not only was he not getting there, but his running was actually impeding Thomas Santiago as well, which was allowing India's PCs to be more successful. So I don't know if any of you want to talk, this is such a minute detail, but a few centimetres one way or the other, and Habib was getting it right one day and wrong the next. So what was happening there? Probably Cedric, actually. You've probably got an answer to that.
I think the important thing to understand is the first wave's line of running is the most important thing in terms of if he's, as you say, 1 centimeter out, you open up the channel. And what happened, if you look at the frustration of Santiago also, his hands were up in the air and he couldn't see the ball. He was unsighted. And the other thing was also Jugraj pulling the ball towards the first wave and then flicking it past his right foot. So this was again a bit of deception on his part, which got the goalkeeper unawares. But the second flick, I mean, those balls which come past the goalkeeper here, there's no way in hell. The most difficult portion to save anywhere in the goal for a goalkeeper is just above the head on both sides. So for the first wave, yes, he has to be a daredevil. If he's slightly off his angle, he's beaten. Or if the castle moves slightly, they've shifted the castle slightly, and then he's still in this predominant old stance, then you can be sure he's off angle, and it opens up the channel for the flicker.
Did you want to add to that, Marsha?
Yeah, I was just thinking exactly what Cedric was saying, is that the minute India change what they did at the top of the D, it causes the first wave has to also change what they do. And if they don't, then they definitely blindside the keeper. And so that's when Cedric mentioned that. I thought, well, India played it really well. So, you know, you can fault the first wave, but I think after the first time that it's happened, with the technology that we have in the game today, they should have picked it up. That India have adjusted the top.
Yeah, I mean, it's another point that, again, I was listening very closely to what Simon was saying, because he's very good at analysing these penalty corners. Both matches, I was waiting for Harmanpreet to score. You know, he's sitting on 98 goals. I was waiting for him to score 1, 2, you know, celebrate 100 goals, and he didn't. But Jugraj came in, and Simon's point was that he has a very, very different strike length. So whereas Harmanpreet is a big guy who takes quite a long time to get the ball away, Jugraj is much quicker, which again gives the defence less time to read the game. So Mo, I don't know if you noticed the difference between Harmanpreet, or whether, having played against India, you've noticed Harmanpreet's longer stride and strike as opposed to some of the shorter strikes.
Correct, and I think Harmanpreet is a very, very strong physically, so he gets a lot of power when he's drag flicking. So it was also strange to see that he's their number one flicker, that they didn't use him, and maybe that was the reason that put off the Argentinian runners. They were anticipated going to him, and Jugraj did some flick 2, I would say, rockets at the keeper, bottom stick side, and one over his right shoulder. He was, in all honesty, he wasn't going to save it, and that's the reality of it. But in saying that, Argentina, what was good to see was they went for a variation that caught India by surprise. Their right postman actually stepped up, and they played it in behind him for deflection. So it was great to see that teams are also using the variation and not going for the conventional straight flick at the goalkeeper.
I think what you've just said is so critical, because the fact is that India has a fantastic first wave in Amit Rohidas. For me, he's one of the best in the world in terms of his first wave running. And when you know the wave is so strong, and you hoodwink them by the slider blocking the post, the third guy coming on the right hand side, and opens up the channel for the injector. It's incredible thinking and on the other team. But to take off about Harmanpreet and Jugraj, I think when you look at it and analyze the flick in terms of power and quickness, there are two different aspects. One is sheer power, and one is the quickness in releasing the ball in between Jugraj and Harmanpreet. And the other last thing is that, you know, many flickers take a lot of time when the ball is strapped on top of the circle and come to the ball. I think the quickness to the ball also makes a big difference. As the ball is halted, stick is on the ball, and boom, it goes through. It's not a question of power sometimes, it's a question of quickness.
Timing, just catching the defence unawares. We've spoken quite a lot about India. Argentina, Mateus Rey won player of the match in the first match. He was a sort of quietly influential player throughout, wasn't he? And put in some really great performances. I also thought Nicolas de la Torres was also very effective as well. But I just wondered if I come to each of you, who impressed, and who do you think is going to be the driving force behind this Argentina team? Because they've obviously got loads and loads of potential. So, Mo, who impressed you in an Argentinian shirt?
I think Lucas Martinez, applying his trade in Holland, is showing that experience now in the Argentinian team. You look at guys like Augustin Mazzilli and all of those guys that have left or not playing. I think he's up there as a senior figure in the forward line. And it's a very different Argentina team that we're looking at. All their senior players either not playing in this round, but it's good to see that youngsters or inexperienced players are getting the opportunity to showcase in the Pro League.
I thought Martin Ferreira, I'm going to feed you some names now, Marsha. Martin Ferreira, I thought was also good, but I felt that he's going to be a star of the future as opposed to the finished article now. I don't know, again, whether you've had time to think about it.
I thought that he was really also quite solid. Andy's also getting closer to that 50 milestone where we sometimes say that players become officially international players after their 50th. But I think it would be nice to make that judgment call maybe after a few more games, because I think that he has potential to continue to grow. But yeah, whether he makes that bigger impact will also be interesting. I thought it was also nice to see some of, like Mo mentioned, some of the youngsters, and is it Thomas
Keenan?
Yes, Thomas Keenan, to also be quite dominant for Argentina. I thought that
He's a physical player, isn't he? Very physical, Thomas Keenan.
Yeah.
I think you also have to understand that there are some game changers in most teams. There are people who control play, and there are some who can just lead. There's silent players who just do their job on the pitch and get the job done without being, extravagant and showing I'm there on the pitch. It's just doing his job to a nicety, and the team revolves around those players. Matthias Rey is one of those, And for me also, Nicholas Keenan, really good, strong on the ball. And Ferrero, I mean, if you look at him, the strength on the ball and his finish was sublime. If you look at it, that was so. These are the highs you look at in terms of thing, but in the overall thing, you look at Argentina growing really from strength to strength.
Just to clarify, Lucas Martinez was playing for Raniero. Now he's at Dragons in Belgium. So I think the experience he's got playing in the Hoofdklasse and now in Belgium being number one in the world, you could say the best league in the world in terms of achievements at the international. So that's, I believe, helping him on the international stage.
Yeah, I agree with you. As usual, time is clicking along. So we'll just very quickly turn our attention to matches that are coming up this week. We've got 2 matches between Spain women and Germany women. Very, very briefly, we saw the German under-21 side play India, and they played very well. They won one and lost, they drew one and won a bonus point, and then they lost one, but very narrowly. But Germany are going through an awful lot of change at the moment in their coaching. So, I mean, Marsha, we've now got a team that's presumably on Tuesday and Wednesday going to be full of the senior players again, so it won't be the under-21s. But we no longer have Xavier Reckinger in charge. We've got Akim and also Valentin Altenberg. How are Germany going to get themselves ready for this, bearing in mind they've got so many changes going on at the moment?
I think that just in terms of culture, they also have been used to adapting to changes in the past, maybe not on such short lead times, but I think just your hockey culture also will determine how you adapt. And I think that the Germans are quite used to also sometimes just getting on with it, which I think will definitely help them against Spain. We know that we've seen Spain play already, and we've seen some of their strengths, and then they'll also potentially lose some of their under-21. So I think it's going to be quite an interesting game. We know that a lot of the Germans that will get the opportunity to play will also want to show the new staff what they're capable of doing. So I'm looking forward to quite an interesting showcase of hockey and skill. It could also backfire on them, where with a new coach and these abilities to show yourself, you might forget the team tactic or misunderstand because you just haven't had enough time together with the new coach.
Yeah, I mean, you're quite right. I mean, it's a squad that's absolutely packed full of experience. Anna Schroeder, Nicola Lorenz, Lisa Altenberg, Charlotte Stappenhorst, if she's back from injury. I do hope we see her as well. Spain, I mean, the matches against India, talking about a team that's stepped up a level. I think the last few months, AD has really got them working well. Gigi Oliver is obviously at the heart of that, but again, they've got some great players around them, haven't they?
Yeah, indeed. And they've also got some solid in the back. They've got Maria, who's been there for years, and she's still solid in the central defense, and she's just shutting the opposition down as much as possible, you know. And I think that stability, if you can build your attack from a solid defensive base, I think that is their strength. And that allows their midfielders and their strikers, who are, a lot of them are a little less experienced. It gives them the opportunity to play with a lot more flair. So I think it's gonna be an interesting clash, because Germany's strength is also up front and in their midfield, and they're going to play against a team where their defense is their strength.
Yeah, absolutely. Mo, you'll be talking about this match next week with Marsha. So we'll move to the final topic today, which is the really exciting prospect of the Junior Women's World Cup. That first day, the opening day, it's going to be really emotional, isn't it? Because the opening match is Ireland and Ukraine, so long as the Ukrainian team arrive there. It's followed by England versus South Africa. First time a World Cup's been played on South African or indeed African soil. Your thoughts, Mo, on I mean, I'm actually getting quite spine tingling even talking about it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's an exciting time for African and South African hockey. Showcase facilities, quality of events that South Africa can host, and Africa as a continent can host. So that'll be brilliant to see. Yes, unfortunately, in the current circumstances with Ukraine, it will be quite an emotional experience for them. But you know what? They've got the backing and support from the FIH and the entire hockey community worldwide. So that's amazing to see. In terms of South Africa play England, look, England has been doing a lot of prep in the UK, but South Africa going in as underdogs in the game, you know, home soil, home advantage, unfortunately no support. Look, anything can happen. I think in tournament hockey, nerves, first day one. So I think my money's on South Africa. Just with the guys, I know Junior World Cup under 21, South Africa, I think have played India at the last two World Cup, England at the last two World Cups, and won both games. So yeah, money's on South Africa.
History is on your side. Marsha, wrap it up for us. You know, you're going to be hosting the show. You're going to be talking about it loads. But what are your thoughts now with just a few days before it all kicks off?
Yeah, I actually spoke to the coach of the SA women's team this morning, and you know, I think that she shares the same sentiments as a lot of the teams. They just want to get going. They've waited really long, the stop-start of it. There's a lot of anxiety, I think, amongst a lot of the players, because, yeah, you kind of built up to it and then it didn't happen, and then now you build up again. So I think that everybody is just extremely excited to get going. I'm really looking forward to really exciting close games, I think, all round. I think that there will be some nice surprises as well. We know that some of the teams have made changes to their selection, while a team like South Africa has kept their selection, which I think could also work to their advantage. So like Mo said, I think that there's a lot of positivity around this team at the moment. However, I think that we should also be realistic and know that there are other teams that are coming with a history of success at a Junior World Cup, and there's a big expectation of them to perform there as well. So I think that it's going to be a really tough tournament for all of the players, emotionally as well as physically. But I think it's also going to be really exciting. We saw that in Tokyo as well. When there's a lot of emotion that you carry into the tournament, there's also a lot of nice surprises. So I think we're in for a nice ride.
I think just to add on to Marsha's comments, the mere fact that the top teams haven't had the best preparation due to COVID, is that going to show in the first couple of games where the surprises might happen? So it'll be very, very interesting to be part of and to watch the first week and see what unfolds.
A bit more of a level playing field. People have been disrupted. So yeah, I mean, it's going to have everything, isn't it? Drama, excitement, goals, goalmouth action, all that sort of thing. Do enjoy your show, you two, when you have it, and also before that, enjoy the Spain-Germany games. Thank you so much for spending the time chatting to us today, and enjoy the rest of the week and the build up for the Junior World Cup. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Check it out.